Imagine hiding billions in plain sight. It sounds impossible, but that is exactly what the underground world of money laundering is built to achieve. At its core, money laundering is the process criminals use to disguise the illegal origins of their cash so it looks legitimate. The money can come from drug trafficking, theft, fraud, corruption, cybercrime, or any number of illicit activities. Without laundering, criminals could not safely spend or invest their profits because the trail of dirty money would lead straight back to them. The basic idea hasn't changed much over the decades. For a long time, it was all about physical cash, secret shipments, and front businesses that accepted piles of bills without asking questions. Famous crime bosses like Pablo Escobar relied on enormous physical networks to move and hide cash. Escobar's operation involved cash smuggling, hidden stashes, and trusted intermediaries who would place money into the formal economy in ways that were difficult to trace. Those methods were brutal and manual, but they were effective for a time because the global financial system was less connected and less regulated than it is today. Modern laundering still follows the same broad logic, but the tools and scale have evolved. Criminals today operate in a more digital and global financial landscape. They still need to make illegal gains look clean, but now they can use international banking systems, shell companies, complex ownership structures, trade flows, and increasingly, digital currencies. The goal remains the same. Remove the obvious link between the cash and the crime, then blend the proceeds into legitimate economic activity so they can be used without attracting suspicion. When we talk about the stages of money laundering, we can think about it in three broad phases: the initial entry of funds into the financial system, the obfuscation of origin through complicated movements and transactions, and the reintroduction of the funds as apparently legitimate assets. In the first phase, illicit cash is converted into a form that can enter banks or markets. This could look like deposits, sales through a business that doesn't report accurately, or exchanging cash for instruments that are easier to move. The key point to understand here is that placing money into the system is risky for criminals, so they often use intermediaries and tactics to reduce that risk. The middle phase is where the money is made hard to trace. This is typically done by moving funds around frequently, changing the form of the assets, and using multiple jurisdictions to create legal and logistical barriers for investigators. Historically, this meant complex cross-border wire transfers and layers of corporate ownership designed to hide the true beneficiary. Today, it can also involve digital strategies that exploit the relative anonymity of certain online platforms. The intention is not to destroy the money, but to sever the direct trail from the origin to the final owner by adding distance, complexity, and opacity. The final phase is integration, where laundered funds are brought back into the open economy through investments, purchases, or business activities that appear lawful. This can include buying real estate, luxury goods, or legitimate investments. Once integrated, the funds can be used to finance lifestyles, expand criminal enterprises, or fund new ventures that further obscure ownership. The end result is the same whether the scheme uses paper ledgers or a cascade of electronic transfers. Illegal profits become usable without immediately revealing their criminal source. While these stages describe the mechanics, it's important to emphasize the grave consequences and the human cost behind the numbers. Money laundering fuels crime by enabling drug trafficking, arms deals, corruption, and organized crime. When illicit funds are integrated into the legitimate economy, they distort markets, inflate asset prices, and undermine fair competition. Communities can suffer when public funds are siphoned away through corrupt networks or when illegal riches buy political influence and weaken institutions. Cryptocurrency has changed the landscape in important ways. Digital currencies can move across borders in minutes and, for some crypto options, offer levels of pseudonymity that are attractive to criminals. Exchanges, mixers, and other crypto services have been used by criminals to swap, split, and move funds in ways that make traditional oversight more difficult. High-profile hacks and scams have demonstrated how quickly stolen funds can disappear into the digital ether, sometimes reappearing years later after elaborate conversion chains. At the same time, blockchain technology also creates permanent records that, when coupled with skilled forensic analysis, can help trace flows that would previously have been invisible. This creates a complex game of cat and mouse between those exploiting crypto for concealment and the investigators developing new tracing techniques. Law enforcement and regulators are not standing still. Over the past decades, international cooperation has strengthened. Agencies now share intelligence, coordinate cross-border investigations, and use advanced forensic accounting to follow the money. Tools that analyze transaction patterns, identify suspicious networks, and detect anomalies in financial behavior are increasingly sophisticated. Governments around the world have tightened regulations on banks, obliged financial institutions to perform customer due diligence, and required the reporting of suspicious activities. Major leaks like the Panama Papers and the Pandora Papers exposed the scale of offshore structures and increased public and political pressure to close loopholes. There is also a growing focus on the points where illegal funds touch the legitimate economy. Real estate, luxury goods markets, high-value art sales, and certain corporate transactions are under scrutiny because they have historically been used to absorb and legitimize illicit wealth. Public awareness campaigns and tougher transparency rules aim to make it harder for criminals to hide behind anonymous entities and shadow ownership. The conversation now includes calls for beneficial ownership registries, stronger know-your-customer requirements, and stricter enforcement against professionals who facilitate concealment. Understanding money laundering matters because it shows how crime and finance intersect in ways that affect everyone. When dirty money flows freely, it undermines governance and harms ordinary people through weakened services and corrupted markets. But by understanding the mechanisms at a high level and recognizing the evolving role of technology, we can also appreciate the tools and policies that work to counter it. Reporting suspicious behavior, supporting transparency reforms, and backing stronger international collaboration are practical ways societies can fight back. The story of money laundering is a cautionary tale about how innovation and anonymity can be exploited as easily as they can be used for good. From the cash-stuffed suitcases of the drug lords to the blockchain addresses of modern cyber criminals, the forms change while the motive remains the same: concealment, survival, and profit at the expense of law and social welfare. The more we learn about these hidden economies, the better equipped we become to advocate for policies and technologies that protect legitimate financial systems and the communities that depend on them. If you want to keep exploring this topic, there is a vast public record of investigations, court cases, and journalistic reporting that sheds light on major laundering networks. Learning how law enforcement traces illicit finance, how whistleblowers bring hidden practices to light, and how international rules evolve will give you a clearer picture of the battle between criminals seeking concealment and societies that demand accountability. Understanding the hidden economy is the first step toward reducing its harms and making financial systems fairer for everyone.